Hey everyone, IIM Bangalore has come up with its selection criteria for the 23-25 batch of its PGP program. And there are a few key things that I would like to inform you about it. And these are good news for a lot of you out there who are targeting the top IIMs. And I think you should listen to this video to understand my analysis of it. So I just want to take you through the key highlights of this. The first highlight that I'd like to point out is the raising of the Cat Weightage for the selection, that means for the shortlisting. So the Cat Weightage has gone from 40% of the 100% marks to 55. So that's a 15% raise on the Cat Weightage, and that 55 is split as 19 in VA, 21 in DILR and 15 in quantitative aptitude. And what this does is that if you look at the 22-24 criteria versus the 23-25 criteria, the Cat Weightage has gone from 40% to 55%. There's a 5% increase in every section. So this puts more in your hands in the sense that on the D-Day, on the day of the Cat, your performance matters a lot, and from 40% to 55%, that's actually a 40% increase in the Cat Weightage in a lot of ways. The percentage increase in the weightage is almost 40%, which is a huge thing, and this is specifically very good for people who are not qualifying or who are not getting IIM Bangalore calls because of other factors like the academics or the lack of work experience, etc. Although work experience is still a factor, but specifically because of academics. Because if you look at 22-24, 50% of the weightage was on academics, and this year it's gone down to 30 because of two things. And this is the second highlight that I would like to point out. The second highlight is that the graduation marks are no longer being considered. So that's tragic for people who have done well at graduation, not done very well in 10th and 12th. But at the same time, those marks that you're losing in graduation, they're still in your hands because you're getting those 15% extra in the CAT. And 10th and 12th is, last year it was 20% for 10th and 10% for 12th. And this year, the 10th weightage has come down from 20 to 15, and the 12th weightage has gone up from 10 to 15. So 15% weightage on 12th and 15% weightage on 10th. But here is where the good news is. Two dimensions where the good news is, and this is the third big point I want to talk about here, which you should know. And this is that, first of all, they are not comparing oranges and apples, in the sense that what they are doing in academic weightage, the 15 marks that you get for 10th score or 12th score, first of all, you are only compared to people who gave the same board for 10th or the same board for 12th. So Maharashtra SSC student is not compared to a CBSE student or is not compared to a Bihar board student in this context. So that's good, because every university, every board has different marking schemes and has different ways in which they give out marks. As we all know, some boards are very lenient with marks, others are not. So this kind of equates you, it's comparing you against your kind of people. Specifically, this used to be a big disadvantage for people who are coming from boards where marks were not handed out so easily. So there are boards in the country where 82-83% is the topper score, and when you compare that as 1:1 against a 97-98% in other boards, you are kind of being unfair to the people who are coming from those boards. So this unfairness is gone. And the other factor is for people who have not performed. This is the fourth point. People who have not performed well in their 10th and 12th. So they have a big concern about IIM-A, B, C nahi ho payega. So C ke baare mein I'll talk about later. But B, you will be able to fight for B because of the fact that if you consider how these 15 marks are allotted. So people with statistical mindsets will understand this easier, but I'll still try to explain the logic of this. So what they are doing is that for every board, suppose you belong to the Bihar board or you belong to Maharashtra SSC for 10th. So what they'll do is they'll look at the whole pool of Maharashtra SSC candidates who have applied to the CAT, and I think they are doing it not only for this year but the last 3 years. So 3 years data they've got, and they've got the 10th score of 3 years data from Maharashtra SSC. And from that data, what they are doing is they're finding the 90th percentile score and marking it as 1. And anybody above the 90th percentile score, that means the people who have got 10% people above them will still be marked as 1, and people who are below the 90th percentile in the Maharashtra SSC board, in that list of candidates that the IIM Bangalore is extracting from its database, people who are below the 90th percentile, उनको ये लोग they will mark as whatever. Let's say 80% to 90th percentile आता है, and you get a 72%, so you will get a ranking of 0.9 there. You will get a range of 0.9 for that weightage. And then they are not just doing that on this weightage. They are not just normalizing this weightage in that form. They are also putting it on the bell curve. And the bell curve, the simple logic is that once they get this data, then this data sorted into these numbers like 1.9, 1.1, 1.2, etc. They're putting all this data into a calculator, which is defining the standard deviation of the data and the mean of the data. And then they're using the Six Sigma logic. So it's now the simple part of this. If you're at the mean, you score the mean marks. Let's simply think of, let's say, the Maharashtra SSC board. Let's assume that they get 80% as the mean score and 5% as the standard deviation. So if you get 80, you'll get 7.5 marks out of 15. If you get 85, that means you're one standard deviation above the mean, you will get 10 marks out of 15. If you got 90, that means you're 2 standard deviations above the mean, you will get 12.5 marks. And if you're 3 standard deviations above mean, you will get 15 marks, the full 15 marks. If any good statistician will tell you that when you look at these calculations, for any data, for any piece of data, achieving 3 standard deviations above the mean is very, very difficult, is very rare. So what you can expect, to cut a long story short, is that a lot of the numbers that will happen, even the good scorers, I mean, if 80 is the mean, 90 would be a really good scorer, but that guy will only get 12.5 marks. And if you have scored around the mean or just above the mean, you would still be at 7.5, 8, 8.5 marks. So your gap with that guy, with the guy who's scoring that 90% in your board and is two standard deviations above your mean, and typically on the bell curve around 5% of the people are 2 standard deviations above the mean. So to cut a long story short and single sentence, I would think that if you're around the mean, you would be having maybe 3 or 4 mark point disadvantage against these guys who have scored well in your board, and who are thinking that I scored well, hence I've got a good chance at IIM Bangalore. So you are just 3 or 4 marks behind. Maybe even less than that, depending on what you score in the 10th. So you are 3-4 marks, and if you have this disadvantage in both 10th and 12th, net you will be down by around 6 marks. And those 6 marks can be easily recovered in the CAT by doing well, even if just in the DI section, if you outperform everybody else and you score a 19-20, and by the way, there also the 21 of DI is also on the normal curve. So if you can get close to 3 sigma on your 3 sections, or any 1 or 2 of these 3 sections, this disadvantage of 10th and 12th not being good is gone in a lot of ways. And of course, if you have WorkX 36 months straight gives you 10 marks. So if you've got 3 years WorkX, then of course you have a huge advantage, because even if you have a 6 mark disadvantage, you are +4 because of 10 marks of WorkX from a non-WorkX person. And gender diversity is also 5 marks. So I'm assuming that's given to girls. So girls ke liye 5 marks extra for gender diversity. That's another factor. So you see there's a lot of play in terms of what you can actually do, or things which are still in your control going forward. I mean, I always tell people, when people ask me this, and a lot of people start off their CAT journeys, कि IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore तो होगा नहीं तो क्या point है CAT journey का, etc. A lot of people keep asking me this all the time. Even on the channel, if you see the comments, every second day we have a comment about 10-12 marks from someone and asking his personal profile. So the good news from my side here and from my analysis of this is that it's in your hands. The non-controllables 10-12, even if they're putting you back by 6-7 marks, you have the controllables in your hand. So make sure that you take care of your controllables and you manage your controllables. Couple of more good news for the girls. Of course, the good news is 5 points straight, I guess. So that's at least for the shortlisting. Gender diversity is not to be applied at final selection, but at least for shortlisting they are doing that. Maybe that's because they want more girls to come to the interview. And one more factor for our GEM brothers, general engineering male brothers and sisters. There is no disadvantage of being an engineer at IIM Bangalore this year. I have not gone very deep into whether it was there last year or the year before last, but इस साल अगर if you read the fine print, they're not segregating like IIM Ahmedabad does कि engineers का shortlist अलग अलग बनता है और BCom का अलग बनता है और doctors का अलग बनता है. IIM Bangalore is not doing that. So it's saying that you get out of these 100 marks, we are not looking at your past academic subjects at all. Out of these 100 marks, if you score what we want or what the qualifying is, we'll call you for an interview. So even if you are an engineer, this is not about disqualification for you because of your engineering degree. So do well at the CAT, do well at the controllables, make sure that you do well specifically at DILR and verbal, which is 40 of the 100 marks, and make sure you also take advantage of WorkX. If you are just passing out, try to build WorkX over a year or two, and you can easily make it to IIM Bangalore, even with poor academics. And that's the big news from this document which was released last week. So do follow the channel and do subscribe to the channel, and do let me know what else you want me to bring for you, and we would gladly do a lot for you coming up in the new videos. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.